Part 1 of the telegraph line at Dry Creek. The stagecoach wheel caught another rut, jolting Evelyn Hart against the wooden frame hard enough to rattle her teeth. She steadied the camera box on her lap with both hands, protecting it like a mother might shield an infant. Through the dust-caked window, the New Mexico territory stretched endlessly ochre earth bleeding into a sky so blue it hurt to look at. "How much farther to Dry Creek?" she called up to the driver. "About 5 miles through Coyote Pass, ma'am. Should have you there by sundown." Evelyn nodded. Though he couldn't see her, 5 miles, after 3 days of bone-jarring travel from Kansas, 5 miles felt like nothing and everything all at once. She touched the leather pouch at her waist containing her telegraph license, her ticket to a new life where she answered to no one but herself. The other passengers had long since dozed off a mining supplies salesman whose snores competed with the wheel noise, and an elderly woman clutching a carpet bag who'd barely spoken since Albuquerque. Evelyn envied their ability to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw James's face not as he'd been at the end. Gaunt and fevered, but young and laughing on their wedding day. 2 years gone, and still the memories ambushed her. The stagecoach slowed as they entered Coyote Pass, walls of red rock rising on either side like an ancient sentries. The driver's whistle, cheerful moments before, cut off abruptly. "What is it?" the salesman asked, startling awake. "Shh," the driver's voice carried down, tight with caution. "Something ain't right." Evelyn's pulse quickened. She'd heard stories at every way station bandits who preyed on travelers in these narrow passes, where escape proved impossible. Her hand moved instinctively to the derringer in her skirt pocket, though she'd only ever fired it at bottles behind her sister's house. A rifle crack split the air. The horses screamed and lurched forward as the driver shouted curses. Another shot closer this time, and the elderly woman whimpered prayers in Spanish. "Everyone down," the driver bellowed. "Get down and—" The stagecoach tilted violently, throwing Evelyn against the door. Through the window, she glimpsed 3 riders emerging from behind the rocks, bandanas covering their faces, rifles raised. The driver was fighting to control the panicking horses while reaching for his shotgun. Then, impossibly, one of the bandits' horses stumbled. Its rider cursed the only sound as his mount's legs tangled in what looked like cut leather. The man hit the ground hard, his rifle skittering across the rocks. A 4th rider appeared on the cliff above, like something materialized from the stone itself. No bandana covered his face, revealing sun-weathered features and eyes the color of desert sage. He held no weapon, just a coiled rope in one hand and something small in the other. The remaining bandits swung their rifles upward, but the mysterious rider had already vanished. A heartbeat later, a shower of rocks cascaded down the cliff face. The bandits' horses reared and bolted, their riders fighting for control and losing. "Go!" the newcomer's voice carried clear and calm from somewhere above. "While they're scattered." The driver didn't need telling twice. He snapped the reins, and the stagecoach lurched forward through the pass. Evelyn craned her neck to glimpse their savior, but saw only dust and shadow. They didn't stop until Dry Creek's scattered buildings appeared on the horizon, painted gold by the setting sun. The driver pulled up in front of the Frontier Hotel, his hands still shaking as he climbed down. "Everyone all right?" He helped the elderly woman descend, then turned to Evelyn. "Ma'am?" "Fine." She accepted his hand down, legs unsteady. "Who was that man?" "That?" The driver spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "That'd be Colt Navarro, part Mexican, part Indian. All trouble if you ask some folks, but damned if he didn't save our hides today." "Navarro." The salesman had recovered enough to puff his chest. "The horse breeder, I heard he was a deserter from Nurim." "You heard wrong." The driver's tone brooked no argument. "Man served his time honorable-like. Now he keeps to himself out at his ranch. 'Cept when he's got business in town, or when idiots try robbing coaches in his territory." Evelyn retrieved her camera box and travel bag. Mind turning over this information? A loner who appeared from nowhere to help strangers. In her experience, such men fell into two categories: saints or those with guilty consciences, sometimes both. Miss Hart. She turned to find a thin man in a deputy's badge approaching. Yes, Tom Whitlow, sheriff's on county business, so I'm handling things. Heard you're our new telegraph operator. I am? She straightened, chin lifting. I'll need to inspect the office first thing tomorrow. About that. Tom's Adam's apple bobbed. Mister, Crane from the Sun and Spur Railroad's been mighty interested in when you'd arrive. He'll likely pay a call. How thoughtful. Evelyn's tone suggested otherwise. She'd dealt with railroad men before smooth talkers who smiled while calculating how to swallow whole towns. After securing a room and a bath, Evelyn ventured to the hotel dining room. The space hummed with conversation that died the moment she entered. A woman alone. Dressed in practical traveling clothes instead of calico, she might as well have worn a sign reading "Outsider." She chose a corner table and ordered stew, ignoring the stares. Let them look. She hadn't come to Dry Creek to make friends. Pardon, Senora. A Mexican woman with silver-streaked hair paused beside her table. You are the telegraph lady. Si, I am. Bueno, I am Isadora Navarro. My son. He helped your coach today. Evelyn studied the woman's proud carriage, the intelligence in dark eyes that missed nothing. I'm grateful for his assistance. He does what's right. Isadora's smile held secrets. But right and legal, they don't always match in Dry Creek. You should know this. Before Evelyn could respond, the dining room door burst open. A man strode in tall, well-dressed, with a kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Every conversation resumed instantly, but with an undertone of wariness. Where's the brave lady who'll be running our telegraph? His voice boomed with false cheer. Ah, you must be Miss Hart, Silas Crane, at your service. He didn't wait for an invitation before sitting across from her. Isadora melted away like smoke. Mr. Crane. Evelyn kept her tone neutral. I understand you have interest in the telegraph office. Interest. My dear woman, I have investment. The Sun and Spur Railroad needs reliable communication. I trust we'll work together splendidly. The telegraph office serves all of Dry Creek, not just the railroad. His smile flickered. Of course, though you'll find the railroad's needs often align with the town's best interests. Do they? She took a deliberate sip of water. In my experience, what's best for a railroad rarely benefits anyone else. You've had unfortunate experiences then. He leaned forward, voice dropping. I pride myself on fairness. Miss Hart, why, just this week I offered to help local ranchers with their water situation. Water situation? Haven't you heard the drought's been terrible? The Blue Spring. Our main water source is running low. I've proposed a simple solution: redirect some flow to the railroad's construction needs. And in exchange, we'll dig new wells for everyone. How generous. He missed her sarcasm entirely. I thought so, though some stubborn holdouts refuse to see sense. Fortunately, progress doesn't wait for the backward thinking. A commotion outside cut short his monologue. Through the window. Evelyn glimpsed a dust-covered rider dismounting the same lean figure from the pass. Colt Navarro handed his horse to a boy, speaking quietly before heading toward the hotel. Crane's expression soured. Speaking of the backward thinking, if you'll excuse me, Miss Hart, I have business elsewhere. We'll speak again soon about the telegraph arrangements. He departed just as Navarro entered, the two men passing without acknowledgement beyond mutual glares. The dining room's atmosphere shifted again, some patrons relaxing, others tensing. Navarro's gaze found Evelyn briefly before he moved to the bar. She noted how he positioned himself to see both entrances, back-protected habits of a man who'd learned not to trust easily. Mr. Navarro. He turned slowly, eyebrow raised. Up close, She could see the Anglo sharpness in his features mixing with his mother's Mexican heritage, and something else, something older in the careful way he moved. "Ma'am." "I wanted to thank you for today." "No need." His voice carried a trace of accent, musical beneath the drawl. "Wasn't about to let those fools rob innocent folk." "How did you know to cut their saddle leathers?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Noticed them camping 2 nights back. Sloppy. Left their gear unguarded while they drank. Figured they were planning something, so I made some adjustments." "Clever." She extended her hand. "Evelyn Hart." He hesitated before taking it, his calluses rough against her palm. "Heard you're bringing the telegraph to Dry Creek." "I am." "Good. Town needs connection to the world. Helps keep certain people honest." "Certain people like Mr. Crane." His expression shuddered. "I don't speak ill of others, ma'am. Man's actions speak loud enough." "Indeed they do." She studied him. This contradiction of a man rough and refined, careful and bold. What did he mean about water rights? "Are you planning to stay in Dry Creek long, Adi?" "Permanently, if all goes well." "Then you'll learn soon enough. Desert's got 2 currencies, gold and water. Crane wants both." He touched his hat brim. "Evening. Ma'am, welcome to Dry Creek." After he left, Evelyn returned to her room and unpacked her equipment. The camera box opened to reveal her precious plates and chemicals. The leather case held her telegraph key brass worn smooth from her fingers during training. She'd told everyone she came west for opportunity. The truth was simpler and more complex. She came to escape ghosts. But as she prepared her equipment for tomorrow's work, she wondered if she'd simply traded one set of hauntings for another. Through her window, the last light bled from the sky. Somewhere in the darkness, coyotes called to each other across the vast emptiness. And somewhere else, she suspected, men made plans that had nothing to do with fairness or progress. She locked her door, checked the Derringer's chambers, and pulled out paper to write her sister, but the words wouldn't come. How could she explain that she'd been in town 3 hours and already sensed the fault lines between railroad and ranchers, between law and justice, between the old ways and the new? Instead, she wrote, "Arrived safely. The country is beautiful and terrible. I think I'll do well here." It wasn't quite a lie. Whether she'd do well remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: Dry Creek would test her in ways Kansas never had. As she settled into the narrow hotel bed, she heard hoofbeats passing below. Through thin curtains, she glimpsed riders heading east toward Blue Spring. If she'd understood the geography correctly, their pace suggested urgency rather than casual travel. Tomorrow she'd set up the telegraph office, but tonight, she suspected, someone was already sending messages of a different kind. The question was whether she'd be able to intercept them in time. Sleep came slowly, and when it did, she dreamed not of James, but of cut leather and falling rocks, of a man who moved like smoke and a smile that promised nothing good. She woke once to what sounded like distant thunder, though no clouds had marked the evening sky. By morning, she'd know it wasn't thunder at all, but for now, she slept fitfully in her narrow bed while Dry Creek's secrets moved through the darkness, patient as rattlesnakes and twice as dangerous. Part 2. Water on the High Plain. The telegraph pole stood straight against the morning sky, fresh-cut pines still weeping sap. Evelyn steadied it while Colt Navarro and 2 farmers, the Hendricks brothers, packed stones around its base. 3 days of work had yielded 5 poles, with 20 more to go before the line would reach the relay station 15 miles east. "That'll hold through anything short of a twister," said the elder Hendricks. Ben, wiping sweat from his brow. "You sure Crane won't make trouble over us helping?"
"Let him try."
Evelyn tested the pole's stability.
"This is town business, not railroad business."
The younger brother, Samuel, glanced nervously toward town.
"Easy for you to say, ma'am. You don't have a mortgage he can call in."
Colt straightened from checking the guy wires. "Crane can't call in what's current. You boys paid up. For now. Ben's jaw tightened. Though with water getting scarcer, next harvest might be different. Evelyn had heard variations of this conversation all week. The drought stretched into its 3rd month, and Blue Spring, the lifeblood of every farm and ranch for 50 miles, ran lower each day. Crane's offer to help with water management grew more tempting to desperate families. Speaking of the devil, Samuel muttered. A survey wagon approached. Crane sitting beside his driver like a king reviewing his domain. He reined up near their work site, that practiced smile spreading across his face. Productive morning, Miss Hart, though I can't help but notice you're using my freight road for your poles. The county road, you mean? Evelyn didn't look up from checking the telegraph wire spool. The one that's been here since before your railroad existed. Technicalities. He climbed down, boots raising small dust clouds. I've been patient, waiting for you to settle in before discussing business. But the Sun and Spur needs telegraph priority. I'm prepared to offer excellent terms, exclusive use during peak hours. Preferential rates. No. His smile faltered. Perhaps you didn't hear the terms. I heard them. She faced him fully. The telegraph serves everyone equally. First come, first served, same rates for all. That's not how business works out here, Miss Hart. It's how my business works everywhere, Mr. Crane. His driver, a hard case with scarred knuckles, shifted on the wagon seat. Colt moved casually closer, hand resting near his hip. Not threatening, but ready. I'd hoped to avoid unpleasantness. Crane's tone cooled. But if you insist on being difficult, perhaps we should discuss your water allocation. What water allocation? Evelyn kept her voice steady. The telegraph office has town water rights. For now, but rights can be re-examined, especially during droughts. Priority must go to essential services. Like railroads. Colt's quiet question carried edge. Crane ignored him. I'm trying to help. Miss Hart, the S&S offers employment to half this town. We're bringing civilization to the frontier. Surely that deserves consideration. What deserves consideration? Evelyn said, is fair access to public services. Good day, Mr. Crane. His facade cracked, showing something uglier beneath. You're new here. You don't understand how things work, but you'll learn. He climbed back onto the wagon. Everyone learns eventually. After they'd gone, Ben Hendricks spat in the dirt. Man's got brass, talking about essential services while planning to steal our water. Planning more than that. Samuel added quietly. Johnny Beale saw surveyors out by Blue Spring last week. Middle of the night. Evelyn filed this information away. We'll need the poles set by week's end. Can I count on you? Yes, ma'am, both brothers answered. That evening, as purple shadows stretched across the desert, Evelyn worked alone in the telegraph office. The space wasn't much a converted storeroom with one window and a scarred desk, but it was hers. She'd strung the practice wire and now tapped out messages to empty air, keeping her skills sharp. The door opened without a knock. She expected Crane or one of his men, but Annie Bluebird entered instead. The Navajo midwife moved with the quiet dignity of her people, age sitting lightly on her shoulders. Miss Hart, her English came carefully but clear. You helped birth the Morrison baby last week. I only fetched water and linens. That had been her second night in town, a precipitous labor, the doctor drunk, and Annie commanding the chaos with calm expertise. You did the real work. Help is help. Annie set a cloth bundle on the desk. Bread, still warm. The smell made Evelyn's stomach rumble. She'd forgotten lunch again. Thank you. Would you like tea? Annie nodded, settling into the spare chair while Evelyn lit the small stove. They sat in companionable silence until the water boiled. My grandmother saw the first white men come to this land, Annie said eventually. Saw them fight the Mexicans, then each other, always fighting over what was never theirs to take. The water. Everything, but yes, water most of all. Annie accepted her cup with both hands. Blue Spring has many names in many tongues, sacred to some, precious to all. Now they put papers on it, say who can drink and when. Do you know what Crane's planning? Annie's dark eyes studied her. You read the lightning words on your wires. Can you read what's not sent? Sometimes, if I know what to listen for. Then listen tonight, when the moon rises full. Before Evelyn could ask more, the telegraph key suddenly chattered to life. Not the practice wire, the main line she'd connected that afternoon. Her hands flew to transcribe. Blue Spring priority. Stop schedule confirmation. Stop full moon implementation. Stop acknowledge. No signature. No destination code. Evelyn's pulse quickened. Someone was using a bypass connection, probably tapped in somewhere along the eastern line. What does it say? Annie asked. It mentions Blue Spring and the full moon. That's tonight. Annie nodded gravely. My nephew works loading freight. Says they moved equipment to the construction camp. Pipes, wooden barriers, like for changing water's path. The pieces clicked together. They're going to divert the spring, tonight, while everyone sleeps. And tomorrow, they'll say it happened natural. Drought causes strange things. Annie stood. What will you do? Evelyn was already reaching for her coat. Bear witness. An hour later, she and Colt picked their way across rough country by moonlight. She'd found him at the livery, preparing for his own investigation. Neither questioned the other's presence, some partnerships formed without words. There! He pointed to fresh wagon tracks leading toward Blue Spring. Heavy load, deep ruts. They tethered their horses a quarter-mile out and continued on foot. The sound of shovels and hammering grew louder, along with rough voices. Through scattered cottonwoods, they sought a crew of men building a crude dam across the spring's outlet, redirecting flow through newly dug channels toward the railroad construction site. Sons of Colt bit off the curse. They're stealing the whole spring. Evelyn already had her camera out, grateful for the full moon's illumination. The modified plates she'd prepared were experimental, designed for low light, though she'd only tested them on candlelit still lifes. I need to get closer. Too dangerous. His hand caught her elbow. Must be 15 men down there. Then help me find a better angle. He studied her face in the moonlight, then nodded. This way. They circled to a rocky outcrop 20 feet above the spring. Perfect view. Decent cover. Evelyn set up the camera with practiced efficiency while Colt watched the workers. Wait, he breathed. Look at the horses. She followed his gesture. The crew's mounts were picketed nearby, and even in moonlight, she could see the S&S brand burned into their flanks. Railroad horses, she murmured. That proves they're stolen or sold. Colt interrupted. Crane's too smart to use his own stock. But look closer. See the shoe pattern in that muddy spot, star and bar. Only one farrier in the territory uses that design. Works exclusive for the S&S line. Evelyn adjusted her camera angle to capture the hoof prints. The plate would be sensitive enough. God willing, she held her breath, opened the shutter, and counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3. Someone's coming, Colt warned. A rider approached from town. No, 2 riders. The workers stopped to watch their arrival. The first man dismounted with familiar arrogance. Crane, Evelyn whispered. And Billy Pike. Colt's tone darkened. Young fool. What's he doing mixed up in this? Billy Pike couldn't be more than 19. All knees and elbows in clothes he hadn't grown into yet. He stayed mounted, hands fidgeting with his reins while Crane inspected the work. Faster. Crane's voice carried clearly. I want this finished before dawn. The documentation's already filed water rights transfer due to natural geological shift.
By the time anyone can prove otherwise, it'll be established fact.
Mr. Crane, Billy's voice cracked.
You sure this is legal?
Legal's what the law says, boy. And I've got papers that say the railroad has emergency water access during drought conditions. This just expedites things.
Evelyn exposed a second plate, capturing Crane gesturing at the construction. The moon hung perfect behind him, illuminating his profile like a wanted poster.
Time to go.
Colt breathed. Wind was picking up, rattling the cottonwood leaves.
Storm coming.
They retreated carefully, but luck ran out 50 yards from the horses. A loose stone clattered down the slope, loud as gunshot in the still night.
Who's there?
Someone shouted.
Johnson, check it out.
Colt pushed Evelyn toward the horses.
Ride, now.
Not without you. I'll be right behind. Go. She ran. Camera box clutched tight, reaching her mare as shouts erupted behind them. Colt's horse, a paint Mustang, danced nervously as she grabbed its lead rope. Hoofbeats pounded closer. Colt burst from the shadows, vaulted into his saddle without touching stirrups.
Ride.
They flew across the desert, pursuit fading as Colt led them through terrain no sane man would attempt in darkness. Only when town lights appeared did they slow.
Your horse,
Evelyn panted.
How did it know to follow without prompting?
And Comanche trained him. Some tricks are worth keeping. He studied their back trail. You get what you needed.
If the plates developed properly?
Yes. Then we best get you to your office. Storm's about to break. The first raindrops fell as they reached town fat, heavy drops that promised a deluge. Evelyn felt the irony reign after months of drought, just when Crane was stealing the spring. I'll stable the horses. Colt offered. You develop those pictures. She hesitated.
This is dangerous. What we're doing. You don't have to.
My mother lives on this land. My horses drink this water. His expression hardened. Some fights you choose. Others choose you. In the telegraph office, Evelyn worked feverishly. The chemicals stung her eyes as she developed the plates in the converted closet she'd made light-proof, one by one. Images emerged, the construction clear despite the grain. Crane's profile unmistakable, the horseshoe prints damning in their clarity. Thunder shook the building. Through the window, she saw riders returning to town. Crane's crew, soaked and hurrying. Had they finished despite the storm? The telegraph key chattered, mission complete, stop, water redirected, stop, await morning announcement. Her jaw clenched. Time to send her own message. She encoded carefully, addressing the territorial judge in Santa Fe, a man her late husband had known, who owed her a favor. Urgent, stop water theft in progress. Stop photographic evidence secured. Stop, request immediate investigation. Stop E. Hart Dry Creek. She sent it 3 times to ensure receipt, then sat back. Dawn would bring consequences. Crane would know someone witnessed his scheme, but she had proof now, proof that couldn't be burned or bought. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts.
It's open,
she called. Tom Whitlow entered, rain dripping from his badge.
Miss Hart, heard you were up late.
Working. She kept her voice neutral.
Storm woke me.
Funny thing about storms. He moved to the window, not quite meeting her eyes. They change landscapes. Come morning, folks might find water flowing different than before. Natural geological shifts. He flinched. That's what the papers will say.
And what will you say? Sheriff?
I'm just a deputy, ma'am. Sheriff's still on county business. His shoulders slumped. Convenient timing, him being gone. She saw it then, the weight crushing this man who wanted to do right but feared the cost. Tom, if someone could prove it wasn't natural. Proof's dangerous in Dry Creek. He turned to leave, paused at the door. You might want to secure those photographs. Miss Hart, accidents happen in storms. After he left, Evelyn gathered the plates and prints, wrapping them in oilcloth.
the rain hammered harder, wind howling like grieving women. Somewhere out there, Blue Spring ran in new channels, feeding railroad construction instead of farms. She thought of Annie's bread, still warm on her desk, of the Hendricks brothers' worried faces, of Billy Pike's nervous hands and Colt's steady presence. Tomorrow, lines would be drawn. But tonight, in the storm's fury, she'd already chosen her side. The telegraph key remained silent, her message unanswered. No matter. Come dawn, she'd have more than words to fight with. She had truth, captured in silver and light. Outside, thunder rolled across the desert like departing trains. And Evelyn Hart, widow, outsider, keeper of lightning words prepared for war. Part 3. The sound of horses in the mist. Dawn came shrouded in mist, unusual for the desert after a storm. Through the gauze-like veil, Evelyn watched riders approach the makeshift corral outside town where Colt Navarro worked with the wild mustangs. She recognized Crane's surveyor and 3 hired hands, their purpose as clear as the branding irons they carried. "They mean to take the whole herd," she said quietly. Colt didn't turn from the black stallion he was gentling. "Railroad needs horses. Cheaper to claim wild ones than buy broken stock. But these aren't wild anymore. You've been working with them for weeks." Try explaining that to a judge who's never seen a Mustang. His hands never stopped their patient work, though she saw the tension in his shoulders. Law says unbranded horses on open range belong to whoever claims them. The lead rider, a thick-necked man named Garrett, called out, "Morning, Navarro. Come to collect company property." "No company property here." Colt's voice stayed level. "Just horses learning to trust again." "Funny thing about trust." Garrett dismounted, iron already heating in a portable forge. "It don't mean nothing without a brand to back it up." Evelyn stepped forward, camera in hand. "Gentlemen, might I document this for the railroad's records, mister?" Crane mentioned wanting photographs of all acquisitions. Garrett frowned. He didn't say nothing about pictures. Telegraph came in last night. The lie came smooth as honey. He wants everything documented now. Some trouble with territorial auditors. The men exchanged glances. Crane's legal troubles were common gossip, mostly stemming from Evelyn's telegraphed evidence about the water theft. Though official wheels ground slowly. "Make it quick," Garrett growled. She photographed everything, the S&S brand glowing red-hot, the Mustang's fear as they scented heated metal. Colt's face carved from stone as he watched. When Garrett approached the black stallion, Colt finally moved. "Not that one. All of them. Navarro. Orders. That horse was born at my ranch. Mare's bloodline goes back 3 generations." "Prove it." "His mother carried my father's brand, double N bar." Garrett studied the stallion. "Don't see no brand." "Because I don't burn animals to prove I own them." The confrontation balanced on a knife's edge. Then another voice cut through the morning mist. "Perhaps we can settle this civilized-like." Silas Crane emerged from the fog like a well-dressed specter, Billy Pike trailing behind. The young man's eyes were red-rimmed, hands trembling slightly. "Mr. Navarro claims personal ownership of this animal," Crane continued. "Without proof, that's just words. However, I'm reasonable. Keep the black. Take it as payment for not interfering with the rest." These horses were promised to the Apache. Colt said, "Part of the treaty negotiations." "Treaties change. Needs change." Crane's smile was sharp. "The railroad's bringing prosperity. Navarro, fighting progress helps no one. Stealing water and horses isn't progress." The smile vanished. "Careful. Accusations require evidence." Evelyn lifted her camera slightly. Crane's eyes tracked the movement. "Miss Hart, still documenting frontier life. It's fascinating work, history in the making." "Indeed, though some moments are best left unrecorded." He turned back to Colt. "Last chance. Take your pet horse and go." For a heartbeat, Evelyn thought Colt might fight. Then he stepped back, hands open. "Mark my words. Crane. These horses will remember. And horses got longer memories than men." Poetic Garrett, proceed. What followed was systematic and brutal. One by one. The mustangs were roped, thrown, branded. The smell of burning hair and flesh filled the air. Some horses fought. Others stood trembling, spirits breaking with their trust. Billy Pike vomited behind a wagon after the third branding. "Boy's got no stomach for real work," Garrett laughed. "Leave him be," Crane ordered, but his disgust was evident. Evelyn documented it all, fighting her own nausea. These images would matter someday, she had to believe that. As the crew worked, Annie Bluebird appeared at Evelyn's elbow, silent as smoke. "You see, but don't stop," the midwife observed. Stopping them now would only delay things. The law, white man's law. Annie watched a young mare struggle against the ropes. "My people have different laws, older ones." "What would your laws do?" "Wait, watch, remember." Annie's weathered face showed no emotion. Justice is patient when it must be. By noon, the deed was done. 30 Mustangs bore the S&S brand, milling in confused terror. Crane's men drove them toward the railroad camp, leaving dust and the stench of burned flesh behind. Colt stood alone by the empty corral, stroking the black stallion's neck. "I'm sorry," Evelyn said inadequately. "Don't be sorry. Be ready." He swung into the saddle with liquid grace. "This isn't over." That evening, the telegraph office felt like a refuge. Evelyn developed the day's photographs in her makeshift darkroom, each image more damning than the last. The brands glowing like hellfire. Billy Pike's sick misery, Crane's satisfied smile. A knock interrupted her work. She emerged to find Tom Whitlow and, surprisingly, Billy Pike. "Ma'am." Tom's hat twisted in his hands. "Billy here's got something to say." The young man looked worse than morning pale, sweating, a tremor in his hands that spoke of either illness or withdrawal. "I can't do it no more." Billy burst out, "What they're doing ain't right." "Sit down," Evelyn said gently. "Tell me." The story spilled out in fragments. Crane had hired Billy months ago, promising good wages and respect. Instead, he'd found himself increasingly tangled in illegal schemes. The water theft was just the latest. "He's got plans," Billy whispered. "Big ones, something about the telegraph lines and—" "That's enough, boy." Crane filled the doorway, 2 gunmen flanking him. Tom's hand dropped to his pistol, but 3-to-1 odds made the gesture meaningless. "Deputy, I believe you're needed at the saloon. Some disturbance." "I haven't heard—" "You have now." Crane's tone brooked no argument. Tom looked at Evelyn, torn between duty and decency. She nodded slightly. He couldn't help here, outnumbered and outmaneuvered. After Tom left, Crane entered uninvited, his men staying by the door. "Billy, we discussed loyalty. Disappointed doesn't begin to cover my feelings." Mr. Crane, I—" "Shut up." The veneer of civility cracked. "Miss Hart, you've been busy. Pictures, telegrams, stirring up trouble." "Documenting truth isn't stirring up trouble. Truth is what powerful men say it is." He picked up one of her prints, the branding scene. "Interesting composition. Though accidents happen in dark rooms, chemicals spill, fires start." "Is that a threat?" "It's an observation. Like observing that young Billy here owes me considerable money. Gambling debts are terrible things." Billy whimpered. Evelyn saw the trap now, the boy snared by obligations he couldn't escape. "What do you want?" "Tonight, you'll send a telegram to Santa Fe. Retract your accusations. Claim the photographs were staged. A misunderstanding." "No." Crane nodded to his men. One grabbed Billy's arm, twisting until the boy cried out,
Stop! Evelyn started forward, but the second gunman blocked her. I'm a businessman. Miss Hart, I make deals. Here's mine, your cooperation for Billy's continued health. You wouldn't. Kill him, no, but broken fingers heal slow. Makes it hard for a man to work, pay debts. Crane studied his manicured nails. Your choice. Before Evelyn could respond, the window exploded inward. A rock wrapped in paper bounced across the floor. Everyone ducked instinctively. What the hell? One gunman started. Fire erupted outside, not the building, but a haystack across the street. Smoke billowed thick and acrid. Shouts arose as townspeople rushed to fight the blaze. Smart woman, Crane snarled. Create a distraction. Hope for rescue. Wasn't me. Evelyn was as confused as anyone. Through the smoke, she glimpsed Doña Isadora directing the bucket brigade with calm efficiency. The older woman caught Evelyn's eye, nodded once. Boss, the second gunman coughed. We should go. Whole town's coming. Crane grabbed the photographs, but Evelyn had learned hard lessons about backup copies. These were prints. The negatives were hidden elsewhere. This isn't finished, he promised. Billy stays with me until you reconsider. They dragged the terrified boy out, disappearing into the smoke and chaos. Later, as the fire smoldered under control, Isadora appeared at Evelyn's door. Thank you, Evelyn said simply. Sometimes smoke clears the air. Isadora's expression was serene. My son says you fought today without fighting. I failed. They took Billy. Did you? Isadora handed her the paper that had wrapped the rock. This fell from young Billy's pocket in the confusion. Evelyn unfolded it carefully. A map. Crudely drawn but clear, showing a building marked powder storage near the railroad camp. He risked everything to get this to me, she breathed. Boys become men when they choose their battles. Isadora touched her shoulder. What will you do? Evelyn thought of Mustangs wearing brands they didn't deserve, of water flowing where it shouldn't, of a young man's trembling hands. I'm going to finish what they started, she said. But first, I need to send a different kind of message. That night, while Dry Creek slept uneasily, Evelyn encoded not retractions but revelations. Her fingers flew across the telegraph key, sending Billy's information to federal marshals, newspaper editors, anyone who might listen. Outside, coyotes howled at the moon, and somewhere in the desert, branded Mustangs ran with memories of freedom burning hotter than any iron. The sound of their hooves echoed like thunder, promising storms yet to come. Part 4, Don't Let Go. The storm struck without warning, as if the sky had been holding its breath since the last rain. Evelyn and Colt drove the rescued Mustangs hard toward Blue Spring Bridge, the only crossing for miles. Behind them, Crane's men gave chase, their shouts lost in the building wind. The bridge won't hold all of us at once, Colt yelled over the rising gale. They'd freed the horses from the railroad camp in the pre-dawn darkness, using Billy's map to avoid guards. Now 30 Mustangs ran wild between them, eyes rolling white with fear as lightning split the sky. The wooden bridge appeared through sheets of rain, already swaying in the wind. The Blue Spring, drought-starved for months, now roared with flash floodwaters. Take half across. Colt wheeled his black stallion. I'll bring the rest. Evelyn didn't argue. She pressed her mare forward, using her body to guide 15 horses onto the groaning planks. The bridge bucked like a living thing. Water sprayed through gaps in the boards, brown and angry. Halfway across, her mare stumbled. Evelyn's boot slipped from the stirrup, and suddenly she was sliding sideways, fingers scrambling for purchase on rain-slick leather. The bridge tilted. She felt herself going over, nothing below but roiling water. Her hand caught a rope part of the bridge railing, but wet hemp slid through her grasp. The drop yawned beneath her. Through the rain, she saw Colt fighting to control the remaining horses, unaware of her peril. Don't let go! The words tore from her throat,
raw and desperate. She wasn't sure if she was begging herself, God, or the universe itself. Then strong hands caught her arms, hauling her back from the edge. Colt had abandoned the horses, thrown himself from his stallion to reach her. "I've got you," he said against her ear, arms wrapping around her as the bridge shuddered. "Hold on to me." She buried her face against his chest, feeling his heartbeat race to match hers. The storm screamed around them, the bridge swaying sickeningly. "Wild horses couldn't tear me away," he said. And despite everything, the danger, the storm, the impossibility of their position, she heard the smile in his voice as he held her tighter. "Though they're sure trying." A crazy laugh bubbled up from her chest. Here they were, suspended between flood and sky. Crane's men somewhere in the darkness behind them. And he was making jokes. "We need to move," she managed. "Together, don't let go of me." They struggled across the rest of the bridge, her arms around his waist, his hand steady on her elbow. The mustangs had scattered on the far bank, but the black stallion waited, loyal as a dog. Behind them, hoofbeats thundered closer. Crane's men, gaining ground. "There," Colt pointed to a cluster of rocks. "Cave entrance." They ran, stumbling over wet stones, the cave mouth barely visible until they were upon it. Inside, the sound of the storm muffled to a dull roar. Water dripped from their clothes, pooling on smooth stone. "Are you hurt?" His hands moved over her arms, checking for injury. "No, just—" She shivered violently. "Cold." He pulled her deeper into the cave, where years of wind had carved a natural shelter. Incredibly, they found dry wood remnants of some traveler's old fire. "Apache cache," Colt explained. "Coaxing flame from flint and tinder. They leave supplies for those who need them." The fire caught, casting dancing shadows. Evelyn sank down beside it, exhaustion hitting like a physical blow. Colt settled beside her, close enough that she felt his warmth. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "Not letting go." His hand found hers in the firelight. "Evie." Her name on his lips was soft as the rain outside. "I need to tell you something." She turned to face him, seeing her own feelings reflected in his eyes. The careful distance they'd maintained for weeks dissolved like sugar in water. "I know," she said. "Me too." "You don't understand." His free hand touched her face, impossibly gentle. "I've been running from ghosts. Led a patrol wrong once. Got good men killed. Swore I'd never be responsible for another life. And now? Now I can't imagine any life that doesn't have you in it." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "But I'm trouble. Evie, Crane's just the start. I've got no money, no prospects." She silenced him with her fingers against his lips. "I didn't come west for money or prospects. I came to live, really live, and for the first time since James died, I feel alive. Your husband, 2 years gone, pneumonia." She leaned into his touch. "I thought I'd never... That part of me died with him. But you, Evie." Her name was a prayer. The kiss was inevitable as gravity soft, tentative, then deeper as walls crumbled. She tasted rain and desperation, promise and fear. His hands tangled in her wet hair, and she pressed closer, needing his solidness, his reality. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she laughed shakily. "This is madness." "The best kind." He rested his forehead against hers. "But we've got problems. Crane won't stop. And those explosives Billy warned about." Thunder crashed, but underneath it, she heard something else. Wagon wheels on stone. They crept to the cave mouth, through the rain. Lights bobbed along the trail, not toward them, but parallel, heading upstream. "The dam," Evelyn breathed. "They're going to blow the dam tonight. Blame it on the storm." Colt swore softly. "Flood the valley. Force everyone to sell cheap." "We have to stop them."
He caught her shoulders.
Evie, no, it's too dangerous.
You said you couldn't imagine a life without me in it. She met his gaze squarely. Well, I can't imagine standing by while Crane destroys everything. We do this together, or not at all. He studied her face, then nodded slowly. Together, then. They left the cave's warmth, plunging back into the storm. The black stallion waited patiently, joined now by Evelyn's mare. The other mustangs had vanished into the night safe and free, she hoped. Following the wagon lights proved treacherous. Rain turned the trail to mud, and lightning strikes came close enough to smell ozone. But Evelyn felt strangely calm. Colt's presence beside her an anchor in the chaos. They found the dam a small structure that controlled Blue Spring's flow into irrigation channels. 3 wagons sat nearby, men unloading crates that could only be dynamite. Too many, Colt said grimly. 8, maybe 10 men. Look, Evelyn pointed. The fuse line. A long cord stretched from the dynamite to a sheltered position behind rock safety for whoever lit it. The cord glistened with something in the lamplight. Pine pitch, Colt murmured. Waterproofing. Burns slow and steady, even in rain. So we cut it. They'd just replace it. Unless... He smiled suddenly. How's your aim? With what? He produced a flask from his saddlebag. Whiskey. High proof. Won't douse a pitch-treated fuse, but it'll burn fast and wild. Light it early, before they're ready. That's insane. You wanted to save the valley. He pressed the flask into her hands. I'll create a distraction. You get close. Pour this along as much fuse as you can. Then set it burning. They'll have to scramble to stop it, giving folks time to get to high ground. What kind of distraction? His grin was wild as the storm. Remember those horses we freed? Before she could protest, he was gone, melting into the darkness. Evelyn clutched the flask and crept forward, using the wagon's bulk as cover. The men worked steadily, professionals who knew their business. She recognized Garrett's voice, Billy Pike's thin form struggling with heavy crates. Her heart ached for the boy, but there was no time. A whistle pierced the night high, wavering, like nothing human. The workers paused, looking around nervously. What was that? Someone asked. The whistle came again, from a different direction, then hoofbeats, growing louder. Suddenly, the night exploded with horses the freed mustangs, driven by some unseen force straight toward the wagons. Men dove for cover as 30 panicked horses thundered through. In the chaos, Evelyn ran for the fuse line. She uncapped the flask, splashing whiskey along the pitched cord, the alcohol soaking in between the waterproofing. Hey, someone's at the fuse. She struck a match, touched it to the alcohol-soaked section. Blue flames raced along the cord, faster than any controlled burn. "Put it out!" Garrett screamed. "Put it out now!" Men scrambled to beat at the flames, but the whiskey-fed fire leaped ahead of them. Evelyn ran, hearing shouts and curses behind her. A gunshot cracked, the bullet whining past her ear. Then Colt was there, leaning from his stallion, arm outstretched. She caught his hand, swinging up behind him as another shot split the night. They rode hard, the storm at their backs. Behind them, men's panicked shouts mixed with whinnying horses. No explosion came. They'd given warning enough, created chaos enough. Miles later, they stopped to breathe the horses. The storm was passing, leaving stars scattered like spilled silver. "We did it," Evelyn said, hardly believing. "We did." Colt twisted in the saddle to look at her. "You're something. Evelyn Hart, brave and beautiful and completely mad. Must be the company I keep." He kissed her then, rain-wet and laughing. And she knew with bone-deep certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together. Wild horses, she thought, remembering his words on the bridge. Wild horses, indeed. As dawn broke pale and clean, they rode back toward Dry Creek,
where consequences waited with the new day. But for now, for this moment, they were just two people who'd found each other in a storm and held on tight. Part negatives and the Black Seal. The dark room's red light painted everything in shades of blood. Evelyn's hands moved with practiced precision, developing the night's photographs. Each image emerging in the chemical bath told its own piece of the story, the S&S seal on dynamite crates, wagon wheels deep in mud, Billy Pike's terrified face in lamplight.
This one?
She whispered, lifting a dripping print. The image showed perfectly coiled fuse rope with the railroad company's seal pressed into the wax coating. Undeniable proof. A soft knock interrupted. "It's Tom," came the deputy's voice. "Alone." She let him in, returning quickly to rescue the prints from overdeveloping. Tom studied the photographs laid out to dry, his face grave.
"Lord have mercy,"
he breathed. "You got it all."
"Every detail?"
She pointed to the clearest image.
"That seal can't be faked.
It's the same dye they use on official documents." Tom picked up the print with trembling hands.
"This could end it. Could stop Crane for good."
"Will you file the report?" He was quiet so long she thought he might refuse. Then, "My sister's farm depends on Blue Spring water. My nephew, barely older than Billy Pike." "Yeah, I'll file it."
"There's something else."
Evelyn showed him the map Billy had secreted to her. "The powder storage. We need to investigate before—" The door burst open. Garrett stood there with two railroad guards, guns drawn. "Hands where we can see them," Garrett ordered. "Both of you." Tom's hand twitched toward his gun, but 3-to-1 odds made it suicide. They raised their hands slowly. "Mr. Crane wants to see you," Garrett told Evelyn. "Bring the photographs." "No." He cocked his pistol.
"Wasn't a request." "It's all right,"
Tom said quietly. "I'll come too." "Just the woman. You've got patrol duty, deputy, sheriff's orders." Tom's face went white.
"The sheriff's back."
"Arrived an hour ago. Wants you checking the North Road. Now." Evelyn saw Tom's struggle duty versus decency warring in his eyes. She nodded slightly. "Go. I'll be fine." After Tom left, clearly reluctant, Garrett gathered the prints while his men kept guns trained on her. They marched her through empty streets to the railroad office, a squat building that squatted like a toad beside the tracks. Crane waited inside, immaculate despite the early hour. Billy Pike sat in a corner, head in hands. "Miss Hart." Crane's smile was sharp as glass. "Eventful night. My men tell me someone interfered with legitimate blasting operations."
"Legitimate?"
She kept her voice steady.
"Is that what you call attempting to flood a valley?"
"I call it controlled demolition of a dangerous structure. The old dam was failing. We were preventing disaster." He spread the photographs across his desk.
"These images, taken out of context, might suggest otherwise."
"The context is clear enough." "Is it?" He lifted the image showing the S&S seal. "Stolen equipment. Perhaps saboteurs trying to frame the railroad. Without provenance, these pictures prove nothing." "A judge might disagree." "Judges can be persuaded, but I prefer avoiding such unpleasantness." He moved to a wall map of the territory. "See this? Every red pin is railroad property. Blue pins are water rights we've acquired. Notice how they surround Dry Creek." She saw it clearly, a noose of ownership tightening around the town. "Soon," Crane continued, "the S&S will control everything worth controlling. Those who cooperate prosper, those who resist." He glanced at Billy. "Tell her about resistance, boy." Billy looked up, face haggard. "They got papers on my family's land. Gambling debts I didn't even incur forged my signature. If I don't do what they say, business is business," Crane said smoothly. "Now, Miss Hart, you'll send telegrams to Santa Fe retracting your accusations. You'll destroy these negatives. In return, Young Billy goes free and you continue operating your telegraph office. And if I refuse? His civilized mask slipped. The good people of Dry Creek have been patient with an outsider stirring trouble, but patience ends. Accidents happen. Fires start. Ask the last telegraph operator. What happened to him? Her Clara Jennings. Lovely woman. Pity about the smoke inhalation. Ice formed in Evelyn's stomach. The fire that killed the previous operator, ruled accidental, suddenly took on sinister implications. I need time to consider, she managed. 1 hour. My men will escort you back. Wait for your decision. He selected one photograph Billy at the blast site. I'll keep this as surety. Back in her office, Evelyn's mind raced. The negatives were hidden, but for how long? And Billy, she couldn't let him suffer for trying to help. She encoding a message, fingers flying over the telegraph key, urgent federal investigation needed, stop railroad corruption, murder suspected, stop evidence secured, stop. The reply came swiftly. Unable to assist, stop jurisdiction, unclear, stop. Her heart sank. Another message. To the newspaper in Santa Fe, explosive story, stop railroad scandal, stop, will pay for coverage, stop. Nothing. The lines were compromised. Messages intercepted or ignored. A shadow fell across her window. Colt stood outside, careful to stay out of sight from the guards. Doña Isadora says come quickly, he whispered. Bring what matters. She gathered the hidden negatives, slipping them into her bodice. At the door, she told Garrett, I need supplies from the general store, for the telegrams. He nodded to one guard. Go with her. Don't let her out of sight. The store route took them past Isadora's house. As they approached, the older woman emerged, basket in hand. Senora Hart, perfect timing. I need help with a birth. Martha Olson's time has come. The guard shifted uncomfortably. She's supposed to... What? Isadora's eyes flashed. Let a baby die because of railroad business. You want that on your conscience. Miguel Fernandez. The guard, apparently Miguel, wilted under her glare. Town midwife carried weight even Crane couldn't counter. 1 hour, he muttered. Inside, no laboring woman waited. Instead, Colt stood with several townspeople, the Hendricks brothers, Annie Bluebird, others whose farms depended on water. We know what Crane attempted last night. Ben Hendricks said. Tom Whitlow told us about the photographs before the sheriff shut him down. Sheriff's in Crane's pocket, his brother added. Came back convenient-like, didn't he? Evelyn pulled out the negatives. These are what Crane wants destroyed. Proof of attempted mass murder. Annie studied them with her quiet intensity. Paper proof for paper laws, but there are older forms of justice. What do you mean? Show them the ledger, Mama, Colt said. Isadora produced a worn leather book. I've been keeping records. Every accident, every burned barn, every poisoned well. Names, dates, witnesses. 20 years of Crane's rise to power, built on others' graves. Evelyn's hands shook as she turned pages. The evidence was staggering, a pattern of violence disguised as misfortune. Why didn't anyone... Report it, Ben laughed bitterly. To who the sheriff he owns, the judges he appoints, the newspapers he controls. But together, Colt said. With your photographs and federal attention, the federal marshals won't come. I tried. Silence fell. Then Annie spoke. There is another way. The railroad camp, their powder storage. You want to blow it up? Evelyn couldn't hide her shock. Not blow up, expose. Annie's smile was enigmatic. Sometimes secrets hide in dangerous places. Colt caught on first. The manifest. They'll have records of how much dynamite they've purchased versus used. If it shows massive excess, proof of stockpiling for illegal purposes. Evelyn finished. Combined with the photographs, we'd have to get in without being caught. Samuel Hendricks protested. Place is guarded. Not tonight. Isadora closed the ledger. Tonight is Santa Rosalia's feast. Half the Mexican workers will be at the celebration, including... She looked at Evelyn. Your guard outside. They planned quickly. Evelyn would return, appear to cooperate, after dark, while the feast provided cover. Colt and the brothers would infiltrate the powder storage. It's too dangerous, Evelyn protested. If you're caught, then we're caught fighting. Colt's jaw was set. Better than surrender. The hour passed too quickly. Miguel knocked, anxious to return. Evelyn left with him, negatives still hidden, mind churning with fear and hope in equal measure. At the office, Garrett waited impatiently. Well, she sat at the telegraph, began tapping out a message. He read over her shoulder, relaxing as words formed previous reports, mistaken stop railroad operations, legitimate stop. Good, he approved. Now the negatives. She made a show of retrieving plates from a hiding spot, not the real ones, but ruined attempts from previous work. He held them to the light, seeing only dark shadows, and nodded. Burn them. She fed them into the stove, watching her decoy evidence curl and blacken. Garrett's satisfaction was palpable. Mister, Crane will be pleased. Your boy goes free tonight. After he left, Evelyn slumped in her chair, the real negatives pressed against her ribs, waiting. Tonight would bring either salvation or disaster. As dusk painted the sky purple, she heard music drifting from the Mexican quarter guitars and trumpets, voices raised in celebration. Santa Rosalia's feast had begun. Evelyn locked the office and walked toward the sound, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, brave men risked everything for truth. The negatives seemed to pulse against her heart, each image a promise that justice, though delayed, would not be denied. The stars emerged one by one, and Evelyn, heart-keeper of lightning words and silver truths, prepared for the longest night of her life. Part 6. The Night Train to Santa Fe. The locomotive's whistle pierced the darkness as Crane's special freight train prepared to depart. Evelyn pressed against the wall of the water tower, watching men load the last crates of dynamite. Everything they'd feared was happening. Crane meant to destroy the dam tonight, under cover of an official railroad transport. There, Colt whispered beside her. Billy's with them. The young man stood between two guards, shoulders slumped in defeat. Despite Crane's promise, he hadn't been released. We have to get on that train, Evelyn said. Already ahead of you. Tom Whitlow emerged from the shadows, badge glinting. Been watching since sundown. Trains heading for Mesquite Junction, then doubling back to the dam. How do you... Billy slipped me a note at the feast. Poor kid's trying to make things right. Tom's face was grim. Sheriff's conveniently absent again, but I'm done playing blind. A fourth figure joined them, Samuel Hendricks, breathing hard. Ben's in position at Mesquite Bridge with the others. If you can stop the train before it gets there... Evelyn understood. The bridge was old, narrow, perfect for an ambush if they could prevent the train from building speed. How do we board? She asked. Colt pointed to a maintenance ladder near the coal car. Train has to slow at Devil's Curve. We jump then. Jump! Evelyn's stomach flipped. Onto a moving train. Unless you've got a better idea. She didn't. They moved through the rail yard like ghosts, avoiding the scattered lanterns. The train began its slow acceleration, steam hissing, wheels grinding on steel. At Devil's Curve. It would slow to perhaps 10 miles per hour fast, but manageable. Remember, Tom said as they ran alongside the tracks. Federal marshals are already coming. Judge Walker in Santa Fe got Evelyn's photographs yesterday. We just need to delay this train until help arrives. The locomotive's headlamp swept around the curve. Evelyn's heart hammered as the train approached, massive and unstoppable. Colt went first, catching the ladder and swinging up with practiced ease. Tom followed, nearly slipping before finding his grip. Your turn, Colt called down. Evelyn ran harder, dress tangling her legs. The ladder came closer. Closer she jumped, hands clutching cold metal. For a terrifying moment, her feet dangled over rushing ground. Then Colt's strong hands hauled her up. "Never again," she gasped. "Night's not over yet." They climbed to the roof, wind tearing at their clothes. The train picked up speed, leaving Devil's Curve behind. 3 cars back. Guards were visible in the lamplight from below. "Crane's in the passenger car," Tom said. "Saw him board with his personal gunman." They crawled forward, using the swaying motion to mask their movement. Below, through gaps in the roof, Evelyn glimpsed the deadly cargo, enough dynamite to destroy not just the dam, but half the valley below it. A shout arose from behind. They'd been spotted. "Move!" Colt pushed her toward the next car as bullets sparked off metal. They ran across the tilting roof, jumping between cars as the train rocked. More guards emerged, climbing up to pursue. Tom turned to face them, drawing his pistol. "Keep going, I'll hold them." Gunfire erupted. Evelyn didn't look back, focusing on the passenger car ahead. They had to reach Crane, had to stop this madness. The door was locked from inside. Colt kicked it once. Twice it splintered open. They tumbled through, finding themselves in an opulent private car. Crane sat at a desk, seemingly unsurprised by their entrance. "Miss Hart, Mr. Navarro," dramatic as always. He didn't rise, hands folded calmly, though ultimately pointless. "It's over. Crane." Evelyn pulled out her revolver, hands steady despite her racing heart. "Federal marshals know everything. The photographs, the testimony." "Ah, yes, your pictures." His smile was cold. "Did you really think I'd allow damning evidence to reach Santa Fe? My associates intercepted your little package. The judge received some lovely landscape photography instead." Her heart sank, but she kept the gun trained on him. "You're lying." "Am I?" He produced a telegram from his jacket. "From Judge Walker himself, thanking me for the scenic views of the territory." Colt moved toward the emergency brake cord, but Crane's men emerged from the shadows, weapons drawn. 3 gunmen, plus Garrett entering from the rear door. "Surrender, and I might let you live." Crane offered, "Though after your escape attempt tragically fails." "Let the boy go," Evelyn said. "Billy's done nothing but try to survive." "The boy's useful. Young men make excellent scapegoats when tragedies occur." Crane stood finally, adjusting his cuffs. "You see, when the dam explodes tonight, investigators will find poor Billy Pike's body nearby. A disturbed youth, gambling debts, desperate enough to attempt extortion by threatening the water supply. Such a shame vigilant railroad security couldn't stop him in time." "You monster," Evelyn breathed. "I'm a businessman. Monsters are for fairy tales." The train lurched suddenly, slowing. They'd reached the approach to Mesquite Bridge. Through the windows, Evelyn saw lanterns ahead, too many for normal operations. Crane frowned. "What's happening?" Garrett peered out. "Locals on the bridge. Boss, bunch of farmers with rifles. Run them down. Bridge won't take it. Too many people, and they've got wagons blocking." The train's whistles shrieked as brakes engaged hard. Everyone stumbled. In the chaos, Colt moved not for a weapon, but to the window. Using hand signals Evelyn recognized from his cavalry days. Outside, a sound rose above the slowing engine hoofbeats. Dozens of them. "What did you do?" Crane snarled. Colt smiled grimly. "Remember those Mustangs you branded? They remember you too." The wild horses came like vengeance itself, pouring from the darkness on both sides of the track. They'd been herded here, held in the canyons until Colt's signal. Now they ran with the focused fury of animals wronged, circling the train in a living whirlwind. The engineer, faced with horses on the tracks and armed men on the bridge, made the only choice: full emergency stop. The train shuddered and screamed. Wheels locked, sparks fountaining into the night.
In the violent deceleration, everyone went tumbling. Evelyn's gun flew from her hand. Garrett crashed into a window. One of Crane's gunmen fell badly, crying out as his arm bent wrong.
But Crane himself moved with surprising agility, producing a hidden pistol. He aimed at Evelyn, face twisted with rage.
"You've ruined everything."
The shot was impossibly loud in the enclosed space. But Evelyn felt no impact. Instead, Billy Pike stood between them, red spreading across his shirt. "No more," the boy whispered, sagging. "No more innocent folks getting hurt." He collapsed. Evelyn caught him, pressing her hands against the wound.
"Billy, no, hold on."
Crane aimed again, but Colt was already moving. The two men collided, wrestling for the gun. They crashed through the door onto the platform between cars, still struggling. "Help him," Evelyn told Tom, who'd fought through from the roof. The deputy knelt beside Billy, using his bandana to staunch the bleeding. Outside, she heard Colt and Crane fighting, the sound of fists on flesh. She grabbed the emergency cord, pulling hard. The train's whistle wailed 3 long blasts. "Too short, the danger signal!" Men swarmed the train from both ends. Ben Hendricks and the farmers from the bridge, townspeople drawn by the whistle. Even some railroad workers who'd grown sick of Crane's methods. Evelyn reached the platform to find Colt pinning Crane against the railing, the railroad man's face bloody. "It's finished," Colt said, but Crane laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think this ends with me? The railroad has a dozen men ready to take my place. The dam will blow. If not tonight, then tomorrow. Progress doesn't stop for—" A new voice cut through his rant. "Silas Crane, you're under arrest." Federal marshals stood on the platform, badges gleaming. Behind them, Judge Walker himself not corrupted after all, but playing along until he could arrive with sufficient force. "Your photographs reached me fine, Miss Hart," the judge said. "We've been watching this train since it left. Wanted to catch him in the act." Crane's face went white. "You can't prove—" "The dynamite in those cars, the attempted murder of a federal witness." Walker gestured to Billy, whom men were carefully moving to a wagon. "We have all the proof we need." As marshals took Crane away, Evelyn sagged against Colt. "Is it really over?" "That part is—" He wrapped an arm around her, solid and warm. "Billy?" "Tom thinks he'll make it. The doctor's already coming." They stood together as the night dissolved into controlled chaos, prisoners arrested, dynamite secured, Mustangs gradually calming as their tormentors were led away in chains. "You know," Colt said softly, "when this started, I just wanted to protect my horses and my mother's land. And now—" He turned her to face him, eyes serious in the lantern light. "Now I want to protect something else too, someone else." "I don't need protecting." "No," he agreed, smiling. "But maybe we can protect each other." She answered by pulling him down for a kiss, there on the platform, with half the town watching. Let them look. She'd learned that some things were worth fighting for publicly. In the distance, a coyote howled, not mourning this time, but triumph. The night train to Santa Fe would never reach its destination, and come morning, the water would still flow free. Part 7. Water returns to its course. The makeshift courthouse smelled of fresh sawdust and hope. Judge Walker had commandeered the largest warehouse in Dry Creek, transforming it into a hall of justice where the whole town could witness Crane's reckoning. Morning light streamed through high windows, illuminating faces that had lived too long under the railroad's shadow. "Mr. Crane," Judge Walker's voice echoed in the vast space. "You stand accused of attempted murder, destruction of property, forgery, and conspiracy to defraud. How do you plead?" Crane stood in shackles, his expensive suit wrinkled from a night in custody. His lawyer, imported from Denver on the morning train, whispered urgently in his ear. "Not guilty," Crane said, chin still raised in defiance. A murmur ran through the packed warehouse. Evelyn sat in the front row beside Colt, her photographs and negatives already entered as evidence. Behind them, half of Dry Creek had gathered farmers, ranchers, townspeople, all come to see justice done. Very well. Judge Walker said, "Prosecution, present your case." What followed was methodical and damning. Tom Whitlow took the stand first, voice steady as he recounted years of looking the other way, the weight of conscience that finally broke him. "I was a coward," Tom said simply. "Crane owned the sheriff, controlled the town, but when I saw those photographs, saw Billy Pike ready to die rather than hurt more folks, I couldn't pretend anymore." He reached into his jacket, producing a worn ledger. "I kept my own records. Every fire, every accident, every family driven out. Names, dates, details Crane thought nobody was tracking." The defense attorney objected, but Judge Walker allowed it, page by page. Tom's testimony painted a picture of systematic terror disguised as progress. Next came the physical evidence, the dynamite from the train, still bearing S&S seals, the fraudulent water contracts, the forged signatures on land deeds, and Evelyn's photographs, each image telling its story of greed and violence. "These images," the prosecutor said, holding up the print of Crane at the midnight water diversion, "show the defendant personally overseeing illegal operations." "Photographs can be staged," the defense countered. "Indeed," the prosecutor smiled. "Then perhaps Mr. Pike can clarify." Billy entered slowly, still pale from his wound but walking under his own power. The crowd stirred, many had thought him dead. "I worked for Mr. Crane," Billy began, voice thin but determined. "Did things I ain't proud of, but I'm here to tell the truth now." His testimony was devastating. Names, dates, specific orders. The defense attorney tried to paint him as a desperate youth lying for leniency, but Billy's details were too precise, too well corroborated by other evidence. "Why come forward now?" the prosecutor asked. Billy looked directly at Crane. "Because I saw what courage looked like. Miss Hart standing up to armed men. Mr. Navarro protecting folks who weren't even his kin. Deputy Tom choosing what's right over what's safe. Made me ashamed of what I'd become." When Crane himself took the stand, his smooth demeanor had cracked. He spoke of bringing civilization to the frontier, of the necessity of strong leadership, of how progress demanded sacrifice. "Whose sacrifice?" the prosecutor pressed. "Yours or always someone else's? I built this territory's future." "You built it on graves," Evelyn said quietly from her seat, but her words carried. Judge Walker banged his gavel. "The witness will address the court, not the gallery." But the damage was done. Crane's mask slipped entirely, revealing the ruthless ambition beneath. "You people don't understand," he snarled. "Without men like me, you'd still be scratching in the dirt, fighting Indians, dying of thirst. I brought water where it was needed." "You stole it," someone called out. "I redistributed it efficiently." "To your own pockets," another voice added. The judge restored order, but Crane had shown his true face. When the defense rested, nobody looked convinced. During recess, Evelyn found herself outside with Isadora Navarro. The older woman studied the horizon where storm clouds gathered real ones this time, promising rain. "You did well in there," Isadora said. "Truth spoken clear and strong." "Will it be enough?" "Look around you." Evelyn did. The warehouse yard was full of people not just awaiting the verdict, but organizing. Ben Hendricks spoke with other farmers about water management. Annie Bluebird tended to elderly folks who'd traveled far to witness this day. Children played between the wagons, their laughter bright as bird song. "Change isn't just removing the bad," Isadora said. "It's building something better after—" Court reconvened. Judge Walker's verdict was swift and decisive, guilty on all charges. The sentence, 25 years hard labor, brought cheers from the gallery. But the judge wasn't finished. There remains the matter of restitution. All properties obtained through fraud will be returned. Water rights revert to common ownership, to be managed by a council elected from the community. He looked over his spectacles at the crowd. I suggest you choose wisely. You've seen what happens when power concentrates in too few hands. As marshals led Crane away, he passed close to Evelyn. You think you've won the railroad will send others? Maybe, she agreed. But we'll be ready, and we'll have something you never understood each other. That evening, the town gathered at Blue Spring. The crude dam had been dismantled, water flowing freely in its ancient course. Tom Whitlow stood before the crowd, badge removed. I've resigned as deputy, he announced. Don't deserve to wear this after what I allowed to happen. Now hold on, Ben Hendricks called out. Man who stands up when it counts, admits his wrongs, and makes them right, that's exactly who should wear a badge. Others voiced agreement when they voted for the new water council. Tom's name was called repeatedly. Serve your time managing water fairly, Judge Walker had suggested before departing. Consider it penance and preparation. This town needs leaders who understand the weight of responsibility. As darkness fell, Evelyn found herself at the cemetery, placing a photograph on a simple grave marker. Clara Jennings, telegraph operator, died 1882. I'll run the lines true. She promised the stone, no more messages will be silenced. Colt appeared beside her, as he always seemed to when she needed him. Billy asked to see you. He's at the docks, recovering well. They found Billy propped in bed, color better than it had been in months. Miss Hart, he struggled to sit straighter. I need to thank you. Rest easy. She sat beside the bed. You've thanked me enough by living. I want to learn, he said earnestly. The telegraph. I mean, if you'll teach me, need to do something useful with these hands besides hold a gun. Evelyn smiled. Lessons start when you're healed. The lightning words wait for no one. Later, at the rebuilt telegraph office, she sent a message to her sister. Justice achieved. Stop water flows free. Stop staying to build something good. Stop. The reply came quick. Proud of you. Stop. When do I meet this Colt person? Stop. Evelyn laughed, fingers hovering over the keys. Through the window, she could see the town settling into evening, peaceful but alert, scarred but healing. Soon, she tapped back. Very soon. Stop. A knock interrupted. The Hendricks brothers entered with several others, hat in hands. Miss Hart. Ben spoke for the group. We've been talking. Town needs more than just water management. Needs ways to stay connected. Share information quick when trouble comes. What are you asking? Teach us. Not everyone can work a telegraph key, but we can run lines, maintain poles, keep the system strong. Make sure what Crane did can't happen again because we're all watching, all connected. She looked at their faces, weathered, determined, hopeful. It won't be easy. Technical work, long hours. Ma'am, Samuel interrupted gently. We just fought a railroad baron and won. We can handle some wires and poles. The office filled with planning voices, sketching networks that would connect not just Dry Creek, but all the small communities Crane had tried to isolate and conquer. Information would flow like water, finding its way around any dam. Near midnight, Evelyn stood outside, breathing the clean desert air. The stars spread above like spilled silver, and somewhere a mockingbird sang complex melodies. Regrets? Colt asked, joining her. None. You... Just one. He pulled her close. That it took so long to find you. She leaned into his warmth. We found each other when it mattered. Evie, I've been thinking... Dangerous habit. He laughed. Maybe, but I figure a town building new needs all kinds of things. Telegraph lines. Sure, but also proper horse training. Freight hauling, that's honest. Connections between the ranches and farms. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time I stopped running from ghosts and started building something real. With you. If you'll have me. She turned in his arms, seeing the future in his eyes not easy, but worthwhile. Partners. In everything. They sealed it with a kiss under the vast New Mexico sky, while around them a town began the slow work of healing. The water flowed in its rightful course. Messages sparked along copper wires, and justice, that rare bird, had found a place to nest. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, Dry Creek slept peaceful, knowing that when power next came calling with honeyed words and iron fists, they'd be ready. The lightning words would make sure of it. Part Sen. A house on the ridge. Summer painted the desert in shades of gold and amber. The telegraph office had expanded into the old assay building next door, creating Dry Creek's first public reading room. Children sprawled on donated rugs, learning letters from borrowed books, while their parents attended evening classes where Evelyn taught basic telegraphy and Colt demonstrated arithmetic using horse breeding records. "That's it, Annie," Billy Pike encouraged a young student. "Dit-da-dit, the letter R." He'd healed well, throwing himself into telegraph work with the fervor of the newly converted. His thin frame had filled out, hands steady now on the brass key. More importantly, the haunted look had left his eyes. "Mr. Pike," the girl said proudly. "I sent my name." "You surely did, clear as birdsong." Evelyn watched from the doorway, a letter in her hand. These moments, small victories of learning and connection, made all the struggles worthwhile. "Good news?" Colt asked, appearing at her shoulder. She showed him the letter. "From Billy's sister in Missouri. She thanks us for the photograph, says it helps to see him smiling." After Billy's testimony at the trial, Evelyn had taken his portrait, the first image where he wasn't looking over his shoulder. She'd sent it east with a letter explaining his redemption. "Speaking of photographs," Colt said, "the Hendricks brothers are ready." Outside, the brothers stood with their families before their rebuilt barn. The spring rains had been generous after years of drought, and their wheat grew tall. Evelyn positioned her camera carefully, capturing not just faces but the promise of prosperity earned through unity. "Hold steady," she called. "Think of something that makes you proud." Their smiles were genuine, born of survival and community. The image would join dozens of others documenting Dry Creek's transformation, visual proof that people could choose their own destiny. After the photography session, Colt guided her to where his black stallion waited beside her mare. "Thought we might ride out to Yucca Ridge." "Any particular reason?" His smile held secrets. "Maybe." They rode in companionable silence, the town falling away behind them. The Mustang rescue station Colt had established spread below proper fencing now, but with gates that opened to freedom, young horses learned trust through patience rather than force. Some eventually choosing partnership with humans, others returning to the wild with skills to survive. At the ridge's crest, Evelyn gasped. A foundation had been laid, stones fitted with careful precision. The frame of a house rose against the sky, positioned to overlook both the town and the flowing spring. "When did you—" "Evenings, mostly," Tom helped, and the Hendricks boys. Even Annie Bluebird blessed the cornerstone. He dismounted, helping her down. "It's not much yet." "It's perfect." She walked the perimeter, imagining walls and windows, a porch for watching sunsets. "But why here?" "Look." He pointed east toward the telegraph lines, west to the Mustang station, south where Blue Spring sparkled. "We can see everything that matters from here. Keep watch without hovering." She understood. They'd both learned the weight of vigilance, the price of complacency. "There's more." He led her to a flat stone set apart from the foundation. "Thought we could put your camera here. Natural dark room below in the ridge's shadow. Good light for portraits with the house as backdrop." "Colt Navarro, are you proposing a business partnership?" "Among other things." He pulled her close, voice soft.
I know we said no rushing, but Evie, I've built corrals and trained horses all my life. This is the first thing I've wanted to build for permanence. She traced the foundation stones, solid and true. We'll need a bigger kitchen if your mother's going to visit, and a room for Billy. He can't live above the telegraph office forever.
So that's yes.
To the house, of course. And the rest. She smiled, remembering another promise made in storm and danger. Wild horses, remember? Couldn't tear me away. He finished, sealing the words with a kiss that tasted of promise and desert sage. By the time they returned to town, sunset painted everything rose gold. The telegraph office buzzed with activity messages flowing in and out, connecting Dry Creek to the wider world. Tom Whitlow had news from Santa Fe, more indictments in the railroad scandal, reforms spreading through the territory. Justice has momentum, he said with satisfaction. Other towns are organizing, demanding accountability. Your photograph started something big. Evelyn.
We all started it, she corrected. I just captured the evidence.
That evening, the town council met in the reading room. The water committee reported steady flow and fair distribution. The education committee, led by Isadora, proposed expanding the evening school. The safety committee, with Tom as reluctant but effective leader, had established a communication network spanning 50 miles.
Any new business?
Asked Ben Hendricks. Serving as council president? A stranger rose from the back, a woman in traveling clothes, dust-worn but determined. My name is Sarah Chen. I've ridden from Copper Falls with a request. The room stirred. Copper Falls lay 3 days south, another mining town under corporate thumbs.
We heard what you did here,
Sarah continued. Standing up to the railroad, taking back your water, building something fair. We want the same. Will you teach us? Silence. Then Tom spoke. It's not our decision alone, but I think we've learned something worth sharing. I can run telegraph lines south, Billy offered eagerly. Connect the towns, make it harder for them to isolate folks. The water management principles work anywhere, Samuel Hendricks added. One by one, others volunteered knowledge, resources, time. Evelyn felt her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. They'd built more than they knew, a model for change that could spread like water, finding new channels. Later, as the meeting dispersed into planning groups, she found herself on the porch with Annie Bluebird. The midwife smiled her quiet smile. You see it now, Annie said. Justice is patient, but it's also contagious. Plant seeds right. They grow everywhere. We almost lost everything fighting Crane. But you didn't. And now others know it's possible. Annie patted her shoulder. My grandmother would be pleased. The land remembers those who treat it well. As weeks passed, Dry Creek became a hub of quiet revolution. The telegraph lines stretched like spider silk, carrying lessons learned in blood and courage. Evelyn's photographs traveled too, showing other communities what organized resistance could achieve. The house on Yucca Ridge rose steadily, true to plans. It faced all directions, watching over mustangs and water, town and telegraph lines. The dark room carved from ridge shadow produced images that told truth without words. The kitchen welcomed all who came seeking knowledge or comfort. On a clear September morning, Evelyn stood before that house in her best dress, simple but new, sewn by Isadora with careful hands. Colt waited under an arbor woven with desert flowers, Tom beside him as witness. Half the town had gathered, spreading quilts on the hillside like a patchwork of community. Do you, Evelyn Hart, take this man? Judge Walker had returned to officiate, claiming he wanted to see something joyful in Dry Creek for a change. I do, she said, meaning it with every fiber. Do you, Colt Navarro, take this woman? With everything I am. He answered before the judge could finish, drawing laughter from the crowd. Then, by the authority vested in me, by the territory of New Mexico and the grace of God, I pronounce you husband and wife. The kiss was sweet and sure.
met with cheers that echoed off the ridges. As they turned to face their community, Evelyn saw Billy adjusting the camera he'd learned to operate, capturing this moment of joy born from struggle. The reception sprawled across the hillside. Tables groaned with food. Musicians played. Children raced between dancing couples. As twilight approached, Evelyn and Colt slipped away to their new porch, watching the celebration continue below. "No regrets?" he asked, as had become their tradition.
None, though.
She pulled out an envelope.
This came yesterday.
He read quickly an offer from a newspaper syndicate wanting her to travel the territories, documenting the changing West. "It's a good opportunity," he said carefully.
It is.
She took the letter back, tore it neatly in half.
"For someone else. I've found my story right here."
He pulled her close as stars began their nightly show. "What happens next? Do you think—" She considered the telegraph lines spreading like veins of connection, the children learning to read and question, the water flowing free and fair. Tomorrow would bring challenges, always did, but they'd face them with clear eyes and united hearts. "We keep building," she said simply. "Keep teaching, keep watching, keep the faith that justice, once rooted, grows strong. Together." She smiled, remembering a bridge in a storm, promises made and kept. Wild horses, my love, wild horses. In the telegraph office below, Billy tapped out the evening's messages, birth announcements, and business dealings, warnings of weather and welcomes to strangers. The lightning words sparked along copper wire, binding distant places with invisible thread. And on Yucca Ridge, in a house built on hope and determination, Evelyn and Colt Navarro began their next chapter, not an ending but a continuation, as all true stories are. The desert wind carried the scent of sage and possibility, whispering of tomorrows yet unwritten but no longer unfaceable. For they had learned the greatest lesson the West could teach, that home isn't found but made, with patience and courage and hands willing to hold tight when storms come calling. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and eternal, bearing witness to love that chose to stay and fight and grow, strong as the land itself and twice as enduring. Thank you for listening to this story. Friends, I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale, whether you're listening during your commute, relaxing at home, or perhaps under your own starry sky. Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's connect over our shared love of these frontier stories. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Wild West Night for more tales of courage and romance from the American frontier. Don't forget to like this video and hit that hype button to help more listeners discover these stories of the Old West. Until we meet again on the trail, partners, keep riding toward your own horizons.